Today we are talking about where personal branding kind of goes wrong if you are someone who is multi-passionate. And I want to talk about another strategy instead if you are multi-passionate. So if you are someone who is building a personal brand online or wants to build a personal brand online, but you are constantly hearing the advice, just niche down, pick one thing, be known for one thing, and you feel like that doesn't feel the best to you because you know you're good at a lot of things and you like to talk about a lot of things and you're just a multi-passionate person. I am your girl, and we're going to be talking about that today. In my last YouTube video, I talked about how brand positioning is very important, and I'm going to be kind of talking about that again today, just in a different way. But you don't have to niche down, right? I do think that it's important to know what you want to be known for, but you don't have to niche all of the way, right? So that is kind of what we're going to be discussing today. So niche down doesn't work for multi-passionates because we have a lot of range, right? And we like to talk about multiple things, and that is okay. I would say like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was a little bit different in the online space, but now people are following creators who have diversification in their content and create things from more of a holistic viewpoint. So that is something to know, that you don't have to niche down, but we have to figure out what are the things you want to be known for, okay? So scratch the whole niche, picking one thing, and we're going to kind of work on rebuilding a personal brand from scratch as a multi-passionate. So I created something called the multi-passionate personal brand umbrella method, and it is something that I teach my clients, and my clients really dig deep in. And this is something that you can whip out a pen and paper and work on it throughout this video. The first step of really growing a personal brand, and this is for anyone, even if you aren't multi-passionate, is really determine your identity. I always use this example that when you are building a house and you don't have a steady foundation for the house, you notice the walls in the house kind of start to crumble over time, right? It is the same thing with a personal brand. If you are building with rocky foundations, your brand is going to be rocky. And kind of what I mean by rocky foundations is you're kind of copying someone else's brand, or you're picking a niche because you think that's what you have to do. You're picking something to talk about that you don't really like. You think that's trendy right now. Those are rocky foundations because it's not truly who you are, right? So the first step to this is your identity, very important. So your identity, you need to answer a few questions. What are your values? This is very important. You need to know what your values are, because when you start building a personal brand and when you start getting brand partnerships or working with clients, you want to make sure your values align. And if they don't, that's not a good thing. So that's your job to be clear on your values. What are your values? What are your passions and your strengths? What do you love and what are you good at? We want to find the intersection points of what you love and what you're good at. That's going to lead us to step 2 of the personal brand umbrella strategy. So what are your passions and your strengths? And are there any kind of themes that you see to keep in mind? Number 3, what are your stories, right? I always tell my clients you need like 2 to 3 key brand stories that you can share around who you are, why you're starting this brand. What was the moment you realized you needed to help someone? What was a before and after, a glow up story, how you got a certain transformation and maybe you're starting to teach it on the internet, right? You need to know your stories. Facts tell, stories sell. You're going to have to tell your story and share your story all the time on social media to grow a personal brand. What are your perspectives of the world view? Maybe the industry that you want to dabble in. What are your perspectives around the industry? Why are you coming in to shed a different light around how things are currently done? And what are your beliefs? What do you stand for and what do you stand against? All great brands have a common enemy or a villain. What do you stand for and what do you stand against? This could just be in the world overall, but if you're kind of tapping into a particular industry, this is going to be more like industry related. Okay, so step 1 of the personal brand umbrella is your identity. The reason we want to get clear on this is because you don't want rocky foundations. You want to build a personal brand that is truly you and comes from you. It's personal for a reason. I'm not saying it's like a bunch of day in the lives, but I'm saying you're going to have to be the one that tells stories, shares your perspectives. That's what a personal brand is. You're sharing your stories, your perspectives, your values, your beliefs. It is your lens to the world. That is a personal brand. And if you're copying someone else, that's not your personal brand, that's theirs, right? So that is why it's so important to get clear on your identity. Step two of the personal brand umbrella is, what do you want to be known for? This is where your passions and strengths come into play. So I want you to whip out a piece of paper. On the left-hand side, write your passions. On the right-hand side, write your strengths. And I want you to circle any overarching or themes that you see regarding both of them. Okay, so those are kind of the things that you want to be known for. And when I say, what do you want to be known for? Usually it's something that you like want to monetize or document or talk about, right? And it can be multiple things. I wouldn't say it needs to be 10 things, but maybe pick 2 or 3 to start off with when you're trying to grow on social media and grow your personal brand, right? So what are the things that you want to be known for? It is going to be the intersection points between your passions and your strengths, okay? This is something that's really important. You don't have to be known for one thing. You can be known for multiple things, but you have to determine what those things are. That's why it's clear. It's important to get clear on your identity so you know what that is, right? That's why identity work matters. So what are the things that you want to be known for? Number 2, your brand positioning, okay? One of the most important parts of your brand positioning is, who do you want to call into your community? You need to get very specific on your ideal community member, not their demographic, but their psychographics. What are their fears? What do they want? What habits do they have that they need to break? What type of transformation do they want? What are their values? What do they love? What do they hate? What are they currently experiencing? Because one of the best ways to build a community around your personal brand is to make your community feel seen and heard. So you need to know who your ideal community member is, like the back of your hand, okay? So, because you want to make money from your personal brand, yeah, maybe sell digital products, brand partnerships. Your people are going to help you do that, okay? So you need to know who they are. It's important to get specific. I'm not talking about women over 45. I'm talking about, what is she scared of when she wakes up in the morning? What is her inner monologue in the afternoon? What does she really, really think about when she lays in bed at night? You need to get that specific. And if you don't know that, you need to actually talk to your audience. You need to do some market research calls. You're going to have to create those conversations, okay? So brand positioning, okay? Part of brand positioning is also the topics that you want to be known for, which is step 2, and identifying a common enemy, which is part of step 1. Step 4 of the personal brand umbrella is your brand thread. This matters mostly to my multi-passionates. If you're not multi-passionate, this doesn't really matter fully to you. But your brand thread is the connection point between all of the topics that you want to talk about online. Okay. So for example, you are someone who's into confidence, who is into mindset, who is into traveling, who is into making money. Maybe the thread is creating my dream reality internally and externally, where you're teaching on confidence and mindset, but showing like how you're living your dream life. You're sharing how you're making money online. A brand thread is the connection point between your multiple topics. It is like the umbrella. It could be considered your niche, right? You want to put this like thread in your bio, maybe on your sales pages or your websites, wherever. Your brand thread can either be a story, right? So an example of a brand thread story could be someone who's documenting on social media, like documenting life after burnout. They're talking about business, burning out, health, fitness. They have an ongoing story that they're documenting. That's a perfect example of a story thread. Your thread can be an outcome or a mission. Everything that you post is leading your audience to a certain transformation or mission, like what I just talked about, creating your life internally and externally, your dream life internally and externally. Everything is around dream life, etc. Your brand thread can be an overarching problem that you solve. Maybe you solve the problem of your gut. Like, you're struggling with healing your gut. That is an issue that you're having. And you're talking about how that affects your acne, your energy, what you actually can eat, etc. So you can talk about multiple things, but everything's solving the gut problem. Or your brand thread can be a perspective, a POV on the world, right? Maybe your perspective is you don't need to walk 10,000 steps to lose weight. You need less stress, right? So maybe you're talking about stress, balancing hormones, health, having more fun in your life. Like, a thread can be a perspective. So those are different types of threads you can have. I usually say you can have 4 and you kind of pick which one aligns most with you. That is the connection point for your topics. That's why it's important to know what you want to be known for first. And then lastly, you create the content. You show up on social media and you post. So usually what I say is, You have your 4 topics, you want to talk about them every single week. So if you're talking about confidence, mindset, traveling, making money, you want to hit all of those topics every week. That is the most important thing as a multi-passionate, is like, you can't just talk about one topic one week and one the next. You need to make sure you can hit all of your topics, and you can't, then you need to niche down your topics a little and maybe only pick 2, right? So you want to make sure you hit your topics every single week. And maybe you're posting multiple videos around those topics every single week, and you want to make sure everything stays cohesive with your brand thread. That is how you build a cohesive brand as a multi-passionate. Your thread acts as your niche. So you can share stories around your thread. You can share your perspective, state your beliefs, and most of all, you can create some type of content series to grow your brand. And what I like to call also as a bridge series, where you can combine multiple topics. So say you talk about motherhood and health, you can create a series that's like what I eat in a day, or like what I ate this week as a stay-at-home mom who has PCOS, where you're kind of combining motherhood and health. So bridge series is great if you have multiple topics to be known for those 2 topics to get people to follow you. Okay, so you have your identity. What are the things you want to be known for? Your brand positioning, your brand thread, and then creating the content, right? And I will discuss content creation on another video, but you need to get clear on especially the 4 steps of building a personal brand in the umbrella and brainstorming your content series, which is going to be key. So those are the steps, like the foundational steps to build a personal brand. And now the creation will become easier. So in the next episode, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about content and marketing. But if you all have questions, please let me know below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my Stan store below and all of my social media. I yap a lot. So I will see you all soon. Bye.